Monday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your week's off to a great start. NFL draft is over. Cavs getting ready for Game 4 in Miami against the Heat, going for the sweep. And the Guardians will open up a 4-game series against the Twins at Progressive Field. All right, Mike Tannenbaum, former NFL general manager, asked which team's draft he liked the most this year.
Who had the draft that you absolutely loved? Who killed it over the weekend?
The Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns. And probably for the player they didn't pick, having Jacksonville's first-round pick next year, I love the player, Travis Hunter. I hated the value for Jacksonville, and here's why. When you're picking in the top 5 and you have a quarterback, you have a million holes. There's a reasonable chance Jacksonville doesn't make the playoffs next year. And when we're talking about Arch Manning and countless other players, like, you don't know, like, Trevor Lawrence may not work out. They may be able to draft Arch Manning in Cleveland because Trevor Lawrence doesn't work out. What happens if there's a great pass rusher? Like, that first-round pick next year, you have no idea how valuable that's going to be. And then to turn around and get Mason Graham, who's a really good player, and then get Carson Schlesinger, get Dylan Sampson, Quinshon Judkins, and obviously, to get Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, like, he has a reasonable chance to be their starting quarterback. I think that's could be a draft for the ages.
Mike Tannenbaum, former NFL general manager. We'll talk plenty about the draft, including Mel Kiper Jr., draft analyst. He had Shedeur Sanders top quarterback in this draft, period. Here's what he thought of the Browns getting him in the 5th round.
Offensive line, that's critical for Shedeur. Said it when Tom Brady was taken. The offensive line's got to protect him. He's got to have that fortress in front of him, as Brady did, allowed him to have that success. You think about what he had at Colorado. He dealt with adversity. He dealt with a muddy pocket. He done it with everything NFL conditions lead you to have to deal with once you get to the pro level. Then you think about the character. I think this is the misperception. I think the fact of the matter is Deion was a great teammate. Deion practiced hard. They loved him in the NFL. They loved him with the Atlanta Braves in Major League Baseball. Shedeur, he will galvanize. He'll be that kind of guy. So again, the offensive line, if you're talking about the Cleveland Browns, that's the issue, guys. If they can protect him, obviously get the weapons, but up front is where they got to be strong. You allow him to do his job, and he will be a surgeon. He will pick you apart. I mean, you give Shedeur time. He sees the field. He's accurate to all levels, and he is a tremendous competitor, incredibly tough. So, again, durable, having all the hits he took and never got hurt, okay? And he didn't have a running game. Not mention offensive line. He had no running game. So he was out there, and he led them to a winning year. He led them to an upset over TCU when he first got there, first game. Then the wheels came off. That Stanford game when the second half lead was won with the half. Shedeur Sanders, to me, when you talk about the locker room and the players around him, they love him. Now, the perception from others outside, based on what there's the noise, maybe they didn't like what they heard. I don't know how it was handled. You get all the word about this, that. You think, well, they're just trying to hurt Shedeur. Teams are still throwing it out there. You don't know what was true, what wasn't. How Deion's going to operate. Deion's going to stay out of it.
It remains to be seen. Could be a good pick. It could be a pick that's a 5th-round pick. So we'll see. Tony Grossi, a longtime Browns beat reporter, talking about the Browns drafting 2 quarterbacks.
Why do you think picking Shedeur Sanders threw a wrench into a quarterback room full of what you called misfit toys?
What's the plan here? Okay, I thought they established the plan by trading Travis Hunter. It was pretty much saying, we'll get our quarterback of the future next year.
And we still can.
Okay, that's fine. Then they get Dylan Gabriel, who's like a career back. I thought that was a huge breach.
I did
obviously.
too.
Okay.
Most of the league did.
And then they pick Shedeur, who nobody portrayed him as a developmental quarterback. This is a guy that should compete for the starting job.
Not in the 5th round, Tony. See, I think, Tony, for me, the 5th round changed everything. Why wouldn't you take a flyer on that? I like him. I think he can play. So does Mel Kiper Jr. So does Chris Canty. So does a lot of people. We're not alone. Not alone.
What about the 32 general managers and 31?
31 general managers that didn't take him. It's a valid question. We'll talk plenty of Browns. Scott Patrick, Dalton Wasserman from PFF straight ahead. Cavs going for the sweep against the Miami Heat in Miami tonight. They won Game 3, 124-87. We're without Darius Garland. He had an injured big toe. DeAndre Hunter, acquired at the trade deadline, showed up big. 21 points with 6 of 8 from the field, 3 of 5 from three-point range. Impressive performance for Hunter. when they needed someone to step up.
Great, and everyone's going to talk about his offense, but defensively he was just is everything we traded him for. His physicality, his size, be able to switch onto Bam, right? Having him and Dean be able to switch onto Bam, and now we got Evan on Tyler, and it's just a real luxury. And then offensively, I thought he was great. He's so skilled, he shoots it. He can play pick and roll, super talented player.
Just to be aggressive. Don came up to me, told me to be aggressive, especially with DG out. So that's what I try to do.
When you look at this win, it wasn't one guy. It was everybody. True team win. You're out one of your starters. Everybody had to step up. What kind of stands out to you most about how you won in this Game 3 of the playoffs?
I think it just shows how deep our team is. I think we proved it all year, but to see it in the playoffs, especially with an all-star down, we had everyone from the last guy to get in. They helped us tonight, so I think it just shows our depth.
Without question, the Cavs have been really deep. Again, going for the sweep tonight in Miami. The Guardians trying to take the series from the Red Sox. Two teams split the first two games. Red Sox got it going early yesterday over at Progressive Field. Rob Refschneider, and that one's not coming back. Home run to left field made it 1-0. That was in the second inning. Still in the second, Kirsten Campbell at the plate. Really good young player. Single out into center field, and this is where things start getting a little bizarre. Martinez's throw home, not sure what Carlos Santana is doing other than allowing the runner from third to score on the throwing error. In the fifth, another throwing error. Rami Gonzalez gets the steal of home. Then in the sixth, take a look, Nolan Jones. I'm going to say he lost that one in the sun, and a run scores to make it 9-0. Bottom of the sixth, Nolan Jones. This is about all that went right for the Guardians all game long. Crushes that one, good sign. 3-run homer, 9-3. The final 13-3, an all-around ugly game. Nolan Jones still trying to get on track to the plate. He feels like it's coming around. He's making progress.
Like I'm seeing or taking good swings at good pitches. Obviously have not had the results that I would want. But hitting the ball hard is not much. I can't control hits, so I feel like I'm doing my best to control my at bats, try and be aggressive and hit the ball hard.
How good did that home run feel? I think it's the first one since last June.
Yeah, I think any home run feels good, but like you said, it's been a while. Kind of got the monkey off my back, and hopefully they start rolling in. Everyone in that clubhouse knows that was not us on the field today. That's not the way we play baseball. There's a bad representation of us, and that's why we play 162. Right? Come back tomorrow with a fresh slate and get to do it again.
And that would be today. Guardians now 2.5 behind the Tigers in the AL Central. 4-game series begins tonight, Progressive Field. It'll be Gavin Williams on the mound against Bailey Ober for the Twins. Guardians also made a roster move. They optioned Joey Cantillo to AAA Columbus and recall right-handed relief pitcher Cody Bolton. Bolton, a 4.34 ERA last year for Seattle. And also pitched in the big leagues in 2023 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So Bolton up, Cantillo down. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We begin by talking Browns. Scott Patrak from the Chronicle Telegram and BrownZone.com. Straight ahead, stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We begin by talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yes, my name is Dennis King. What I'm wondering is that Andrew Berry, what's wrong with this guy? Now, he's choosing to pick a guy at 33 that he could have gotten in the 4th round. It doesn't make any sense. And then he picks a 5-foot quarterback instead of picking Will Howard from Ohio State. His picks are ridiculous. I'm tired of it. Thank you for listening.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter for the Chronicle Telegram, as well as BrownZone.com. Scott, Schlesinger's a pretty good linebacker. I know that most people had him ranked 2nd, 3rd linebacker in the draft. I get a little bit of the question why you draft a linebacker so high, but a lot of people liked Andrew Berry's draft.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm with the caller. I don't know if I would have been quite as harsh. And I don't think Schlesinger would have been there in the 4th round. However, my 2 biggest gripes with the draft, and my 2 biggest, are Schlesinger at 33. I just would never, not never say never, but I would never take a linebacker that high. I think you can get somebody closer to that later in the draft. I think there's much more premium positions to address at 33. Receiver would have looked good there. And Gabriel, and maybe he proves me wrong, and I know he threw for 18,000 yards and 155 touchdowns, but I don't like short quarterbacks, and he's short, and he's not broad, and he's not the athlete Kyler Murray is. So I have a hard time projecting him as anything more than a backup in the NFL. So I'm kind of with the caller on those 2.
Yeah, I don't question the player as Schlesinger. I do question the position. I'm with you. I was all over linebacker. I have a question for you about the quarterback in a minute. Shedeur Sanders slid all the way to the 5th round. Browns traded up to acquire him. Barry, on the message they sent to Sanders.
I think our message to him, it's really all this. It's like, look, got to come in and work, and you got to come in and compete. That's the message. Nothing's given. Given the nature of the weekend for him, relative to, let's say, external expectation versus what happened, we did tell him that it really doesn't matter where you picked; it's what you do from that point forward, because that's the reality for all the guys that we selected this weekend. In terms of his reaction, I just say it was probably a mixture of gratitude, relief, and determination. That would probably be the best way to characterize it. But he's certainly ready to go.
Scott, we play that clip, and I know you wrote an article just about how Shedeur said he didn't focus on the whole slide. Take us through that.
Yeah, I was impressed with him. We talked to him, 5 or 6 o'clock on Saturday, and obviously he'd been the story of the draft, and the slide had been the story, and that's got to be tough to take personally. And you're watching everybody talk about it, and the focus is on you for not a good thing. And, he could have went a bunch of different ways in the interview. He could have ripped the teams for not taking him. He could have said he's going to make everybody that passed on him regret it. And, who knows? Maybe he will the next time we talk to him. And there'd be benefit to that, too. Like, you could understand the thought process and searching for motivation and the chip on your shoulder. But in the immediate aftermath, he said, I'm not going to focus on the negativity. And it was, I just wanted an opportunity. I got one. He said, there's a bunch of talented people in this draft. Where you go doesn't really matter as long as you get taken. He didn't even rip the kid that prank called him, which is a tough moment. You think you're going to the Saints in the 2nd round. You wind up not going to the 5th round. And he said, hey, people do childish things. So I thought he handled himself really well. And obviously we're going to focus a lot on how he handles himself, because that was such a question throughout the draft process. It's probably the reason he slipped into the 5th round is questions, or not questions, but rubbing people the wrong way during the draft process. And I thought his first experience after being drafted with the Browns went well.
So you mentioned the prank call. So it's Jax Ulbrich, son of defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich for the Falcons, got Sanders' cell phone information without his dad knowing it, and then gave him a prank call and actually recorded it.
Is this Shadur? This is Mickey Loomis here, the GM of the New Orleans Saints. How you doing? This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man. We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man.
It's ain't gonna be nothing there.
Hey, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, man. Sorry about that.
Oh my God! He bought it! He bought it! Oh.
So, Scott, I know you wrote an article about that, and I mean, that's one of those things. It might sound like a good idea, but sit down and think about it before you actually. Those kids are basically the same age as him.
Yeah, Kevin Stefanski called them morons. You watch that, and I just think, what kind of jerk do you have to be to do that? You're putting a kid through a really difficult time to get a joke, and then to record it and put it out there. I mean, I get we're in 2025, and that's what everybody does about everything. Terrible judgment. And actually, I think Ulbricht's kid, or Jax, is not the kid making the call. The Associated Press said he was the other kid, and that's his friend that did it, the actual call. Not that it matters. But, it feels like a breach of security, kind of the fact that he could get this number, and then to show such awful judgment to use it. I'm sure he doesn't think that it's going to come back to his dad, but then it does. So it looks terrible for his dad. It looks terrible for the Falcons. They have Christmas parties. Is a kid going to go back and be at the Christmas party and Arthur Blank is looking at him like, what the heck? So it's just unfortunate all the way around.
So, again, I know you also wrote a quarterback story, kind of an analysis about the competition. Haven't had an open competition with Kevin Stefanski as the head coach. What are your thoughts of it when you look at it?
Yeah, I don't know what to think. I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know if it'll be exciting or not. I think there'll be plenty to watch because the four combatants, right, the four competitors, they're kind of all over the board. I mean, you have the two rookies who have similar games, but Shadur Sanders is such a big name, comes with so much surrounding him that I could see Dylan Gabriel being like, hey, I'm going to prove to this guy I was worth the 3rd-round pick when he was a 5th-round pick. So how do the rookies, not necessarily butt heads, but how do they compete against each other? You got Joe Flacco, who probably rises above it, and the Browns know, hey, if we want to go to Joe, we can go to Joe. And he's a proven commodity, and you know exactly what you're going to get. Then you have Kenny Pickett, who I believe the Browns hope wins the job. And, former first-round pick, they hope they can unlock something within him. He becomes a better player, maybe even becomes a long-term answer at the position. But, Joe Flacco's got the best resume. He's 40. And then you get Kenny Pickett, who, he's thrown for a touchdown, for more than one touchdown in one game. And he started 25. And then you get these two rookies who were not taken high in a bad quarterback class. So I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how Stefanski divides the reps. Right now I would put Kenny Pickett as the favorite with Shadur Sanders second. And maybe I'm not being given Dylan Gabriel enough respect, but I thought Sanders was a better player coming out of the draft, or coming into the draft, so I still feel that way.
Yeah, I'm with you. Because I kind of had alluded. Who do you think the starter week 1 is? And I would agree. I think it's probably Kenny Pickett, Sanders, and again, Flacco is kind of there as okay. These guys aren't ready. I think Flacco is the ultimate insurance policy if you don't feel comfortable with any of the 3 younger quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. They saw him 2 years ago. It's going to, we would think the scheme would be really similar to what he ran here in 2023 with Stefanski back calling the plays. So, I think they want to see if Kenny Pickett can make a jump. But if he doesn't, what if he doesn't look like they want him to look throughout the offseason program? or the start of training camp or whatever, and you don't see one of the rookies emerge, then it feels pretty, maybe not easy, but simple to go to Joe Flacco. Let's say it's week 2 of the preseason. Joe, now you got a month to get ready for week 1. And I don't think Joe would have any trouble doing it. I mean, he's a guy that came off the couch, in November and started 2 weeks later, and at least he'll be in the playbook all offseason. He would be with teammates, so it would not be nearly the adjustment that he had to make in 2023.
Scott Patrick and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Hey, Olo, are there any lunch specials near me?
You want to learn about Ohio Lottery's Pick 3?
No.
Okay, Pick 3 is a daily draw game.
Cancel.
Where players pick 3 individual numbers between 0 and 9. The numbers can be played straight, where they must be drawn in an exact order, or boxed, where they can be drawn in any order. It's quick to play.
I just want lunch.
Players can win hundreds, and wagers start at 50 cents. The next drawing is coming up. Want directions to the nearest Ohio Lottery retailer?
Yes. One that serves food.
We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrak from the Chronicle Telegram as well as brownzone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
What's up, Dave? This is Taylor from Columbus. I wanted to thank you and your team for having the live draft coverage and allowing watchers of the show to call in and speak with you and Lance live as the draft unfolded. You guys did a great job. Concerning the Browns selection, maybe they weren't exactly what we wanted as fans, but overall, we had a great draft, especially with the first round pick we get from the Jags next year. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get a safety. I think that's a position of need, and there were quality safeties that could have been drafted. But I'm really looking forward to this QB battle because as of right now, we have 5 QBs on our roster. So what are your thoughts, man? Let me know. Thanks.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Scott, I'm a little disappointed that they didn't get a wide receiver. Safety would have. Xavier Watts was sitting there, I think, when they took Dylan Gabriel, and that's kind of what we were guessing they might be doing. I see kind of everything. I don't think it's one of those things you're going to have to wait and see what becomes of a couple of these guys, as is the case with any draft. What did you think of the trade back from 2 to 5? I'm curious of your thoughts of that one.
Yeah, I liked it. I think it caught some people off guard, at least when the rumblings really started to heat up that afternoon. But thinking back on it, and we've talked about it, that's their default. The Browns organization, the default is to trade down and acquire more picks. And I completely understand that philosophy, but the buzz around Travis Hunter just kept heating up that it felt like it was going to happen. But early in the draft process, I remember writing multiple times, or they could trade down and draft a guy like Mason Graham. It was always in play. It just felt less likely the closer we got to the draft. And maybe obviously I should have, kept bringing that up as a possibility because they would like to do that. And I think they might have been surprised that they were able to get a 2026 first-round pick. I did not think they were going to be able to get that, which is why I didn't think they would trade down from number 2 because I didn't think anybody would give up a number 1 next year to not draft a quarterback. And you knew it wasn't going to be a quarterback, but the Jags are trying to make a big splash. So, Andrew Berry said it would have been a non-starter if he didn't get a first-round pick. So that's why I'm a little surprised by it, but I like it. I think it's great value. Mason Graham, he's a top 5 guy on just about everybody's board. And if the draft is a crapshoot, so, is Travis Hunter going to be a Hall of Famer? Maybe. Is Mason Graham? Maybe. And then the Browns get number 36 in a first-rounder next year, which could be used to go get a quarterback. So it made all the sense in the world to me, and I think Mason Graham's going to be a good player.
Yeah, the thing that's kind of interesting, and I kind of had talked myself into Travis Hunter, but nobody has done what they think Travis Hunter will do in the history of the NFL. At some point in time, it doesn't mean he can't, but do you want to bank on that at number 2? Because I don't think if he's only a wide receiver or a cornerback, he's probably not number 2.
Yeah, that's a great question. I agree. He would have had to play both ways, or will for the Jaguars, have to play both ways, certainly to make that trade worth it, right? Because not only are they taking him at number 2, they gave up everything they gave up. I think you need him to be a two-way player. I think it would have been incredibly fun to cover him and everything that goes into that experiment, the meetings he has to go to, how they split his practice reps, how they juggle it between offense, defense, all of it. I think it would have been really fun to cover, and I think it would have been exciting for fans, which is why I think the initial reaction from a lot of fans is, why are they doing this? They had bought in to Travis Hunter and the Travis Hunter experience. But, I think you make a great point. You need to see him do it. He's 188 pounds. So is he going to be able to handle the wear and tear? Like, those are legitimate questions. And again, we don't know if he's going to be great. I think he's going to be great, but you never know. You don't know about Mason Graham. It just made sense to make that trade.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is, if you throw in the first-round pick, I'm not willing to bet that he can do something nobody else has ever done. You also wrote an article, and take us through Mason Graham lined up to Myles Garrett, why you think it's a huge deal.
Yeah, there was talk about Abdul Carter at number 2, and that would have been a bookend with Myles Garrett, both playing defensive end, obviously. There's plenty of people that believe having the interior pass rush next to your outstanding edge makes a bigger difference, because teams have a hard time focusing all those resources on guys lined up next to each other. Do you slide the protection that way with an extra tight end? Sure, you can do that, but then you're creating one-on-ones for other people. It's just really valuable to have a guy on the inside that can pressure the quarterback. And that's what the Browns are counting on Mason Graham to do. It wasn't like he had crazy sack numbers at Michigan, but it was in a different system. It's not the attacking system of Jim Schwartz. You can see the burst that Mason Graham has, the leverage he uses, the ability to get into the backfield. It shows up throughout his highlight tape. So the Browns are counting on teams to have to focus so much attention on those two guys, or one of those two guys, or both of them, that either one of those guys is going to be free in one-on-one, or the rest of the line is going to have the opportunity to take advantage of one-on-one matchups. So I think it's just really valuable to have that interior pass rusher. And now they hope Mike Hall Jr., the second-round pick a year ago, fits right into that, and now all of a sudden you get two young guys in the middle.
All right, so you mentioned earlier wide receiver, and I had said that even when they took Schlesinger at 33. Here's why I think they still need a wide receiver. These are career catch numbers for the wide receivers that are on their roster. Jerry Jeudy, 301, and you see the touchdown. Big portion of that was last year. Cedric Tillman, everybody likes Cedric Tillman. He has 50 career catches in the NFL for 3 touchdowns, just over 560 yards. Michael Woods has been hurt, only has 12 career catches for 110 yards. Jamari Thrash, rookie last year, 3 catches for 22 yards. David Bell, 41 catches in his career. DeAndre Carter, he's played 8 years in the NFL, has never had more than 46 career catches in a season, and he's had 3 touchdowns in 2 of those 8 years. So there's just not a lot of production. Again, it comes back to, could somebody emerge? Sure. But if they don't, you're going to be running into 8- and 9-man boxes again.
Yeah, I mean, they can't go. I don't think they can. Maybe they have a different opinion. I don't think they can go in this season with that group of guys. You have to add 1 or 2 pieces. I know they'll bring in undrafted guys, but whether it's a trade, a veteran that's still out there in free agency, just clean up on the waiver wire, something, you have to add guys because, yes, Jamari Thrash has a chance, but he's a small guy. He didn't impress last year in limited opportunities. Could he make a jump? Sure. Michael Woods II hasn't done anything. David Bell was hurt, and we know he's limited physically. So, for me, it's Jerry Jeudy, a question mark in Cedric Tillman, and then nothing, or maybe just a bunch of more question marks, even bigger ones. So, yeah, they got to add guys. There's no 2 ways about it.
Yeah, and along those lines, one guy that's still out there is Elijah Moore, although he is visiting the Buffalo Bills. Career best 61 catches for the Browns last season. He did just turn 25, but again, he would add to a group.
Well, yeah, I mean, like if they re-sign him, it would make sense. I mean, that doesn't change. Like, oh my gosh, now they have a top 5 receiving core. But do I think he's better than those other guys? Yes. Did he have some success here? Yes. I feel the same way about Amari Cooper. Maybe Amari Cooper's done. He struggled here early last year, didn't do a lot in Buffalo. Tough circumstances joining a team in the middle of the year. But I would feel better about either of those guys than I do right now about whoever number 3 and 4 and 5 is going to be. And I get that they're probably going to run it a bunch, and they're going to use a lot of 2 tight ends with David Njoku and Harold Fenton Jr., but you still need guys on the outside to spread the field, to take some pressure off, and I just think they're short there.
Yeah, I would agree. Scott Petrick and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit more about the draft class, including looking forward at the running back position. Sports for CLE. Be right back.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrick from the Chronicle Telegram as well as BrownZone.com. Longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi, his thoughts on this year's draft class.
Take away all the decisions they made about quarterbacks. This is the best draft Andrew Berry's had. They got Mason Graham. I think he'll have a greater impact on Myles Garrett than Abdul Carter would have. I really believe that because the position he plays. So, and then the linebacker makes sense. Let's face it, JOK is not playing in 2025. And this is the second best to Jihad Campbell of Alabama, second best off-ball linebacker. No problem with that. Quinshawn Judkins.
Oh.
A+.
Come on.
A+ pick.
Okay.
Right? Harold Fenton Jr., A+ pick where they got him.
Okay.
Even the backup running back, Dylan Sampson. Good pick for where they got him. So that's the bulk of everything he did besides the quarterbacks.
Scott, we'll talk about the quarterbacks in a minute. The question that I have relative to we'll talk about the running backs in a minute. Relative to the quarterbacks, they moved on from Baker Mayfield. These guys are the same kind of size, being Sanders and Gabriel. And there had to be a reason they moved on from Baker Mayfield. I would think it would have been the size. You want a guy that can go downfield more. I don't that's the part of the 2 quarterbacks that I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, I feel like size might be less important in today's NFL as we go along. You see, I think, more shorter quarterbacks. Pat Mahomes isn't that big. He's like 6'2". Kyler Murray, Bryce Young are really tiny. They're smaller than Gabriel. You got Baker. So I understand it because I used to be that meant so much to me. And it still does. I prefer my quarterback bigger, but I get that the NFL is shifting a little bit. But I feel like Shedeur Sanders is okay size-wise. It's not great, but he's okay. And Cam Ward's the same way. Cam Ward's only 6'1". But Gabriel just feels like another level to me, another notch below. I mean, Joe Flacco, when he stands next to Gabriel, it's going to be a huge difference. And again, you can win. You can have success as a shorter quarterback. Russell Wilson did. So I'm not saying Gabriel has no chance to do it. And if you process fast and you're accurate and you can find windows, Drew Brees did it. I just think it makes it that much harder. So when you talk about, okay, what's the through line with the quarterbacks? For me, it's accuracy and decision-making. That's what they saw in Gabriel, and that's what they saw in Sanders. And now and I think those are probably the 2 most important things. But can it overcome a lack of size, a lack of elite arm strength? For Sanders, it's taken way too many sacks. These are the things they need to fix to take full advantage of decision-making and accuracy.
So Andrew Berry was asked about adding 2 running backs in the draft, Quinshawn Judkins and Dylan Sampson. Would it affect the team's interest in re-signing Nick Chubb?
Would it be fair to assume that what that means to Nick's potential future with the franchise as a potential re-signing?
Good question, Chris. I'd say, not necessarily, but, the complexion of our running back room has changed this weekend. And so as we, work through the, undrafted free agency process, maybe take a breath on Sunday, we'll reassess kind of where the roster is and what opportunities are available to us, on the veteran market, and then we'll operate from there.
So, Scott, we can talk about Chubb along with this, but I know you wrote an article, the 1-2 punch, Sampson and Judkins. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I do too. Here's where, I think you could quibble with a couple things. I think I like both those guys. I like him as a 1-2 punch. So, maybe 6 months from now, this doesn't even matter. I don't love running back at 36, just in general. It's like linebacker at 33. I don't hate it as much as I hate linebacker that high, but I don't love it. And I thought in this draft you could get a starter in the 3rd or 4th round. Like if the Browns hadn't drafted Judkins and they get Sampson, they'd be like, oh my gosh, Sampson's really good. He can probably come in and start. I know he's not huge. He's not as big as Judkins, but I would have viewed him as a starter. And then you draft somebody later, or you sign an undrafted rookie or whatever. But I think Judkins is really good. I think Sampson has the potential to be really good. Together, I think they can be really good. And, this offense lacks receivers. It lacks playmakers on the outside. You better be able to run the ball. And I think that they're headed back to that philosophically. And then you question, okay, do you need, in a draft where you don't get a receiver, don't get a safety, don't get a tackle, do you need a second running back? And I think those are fair questions to ask, but that doesn't make me feel any worse about that tandem.
Yeah, I understand the question. Remember, Sampson's 20 years old, too, so he's young, he's fast. They are different enough skill sets that I do like the pairing. Judkins is a guy that will run over and through and runs violently, and Sampson has the ability to be kind of the home run hitter. Before I let you go, take us through the article you wrote about Harold Fannin Jr. It's a kid from Canton McKinley High School. And again, another just 20 years old. What do you think they liked about him and what they have in Fannin?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they needed a tight end. We talked about that a bunch. And they got probably a top 5 tight end. They don't get, they get him in the 3rd round, so they don't have to reach. But what's interesting, the Browns analytics and one of their, I don't know if it's a tenet, but one thing they pay a lot of attention to is the age of the prospect. And they believe the younger, the better. It gives, the guy still has a chance to develop. When he goes to his 2nd contract, he's still young. We've seen it with David Njoku, who was 20 when they drafted him as well. So they prefer that. It doesn't mean they won't draft older, but they prefer that. And Andrew Berry was talking a little bit about the thinking behind that and pointed to Fannin. He goes to Penn State and has a huge game, goes to College Station against A&M and has a huge game, and he's doing that at 20 against 22, 23-year-olds at big-time schools, and it just shows you that he's ready, and that matters when you compare him as a prospect to maybe a 23-year-old coming out in the draft who went to LSU, and, he's doing this at BG with not a lot of talent around him. He's the one guy you have to stop. So you do have to pay attention to those kind of things. It's not just numbers and what school you go to.
Scott Petrak, great stuff as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Scott.
Thanks, David.
Scott Petrak, make sure you check him out. Brownzone.com. He is also the Browns beat reporter for the Chronicle Telegraph. Always really good and insightful Browns coverage. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Dalton Wasserman from PFF. Straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to Go Forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Hey, Olo,
Are there any lunch specials near me?
You want to learn about Ohio Lottery's Pick 3?
No.
Okay, Pick 3 is a daily draw game.
Cancel.
Where players pick 3 individual numbers between 0 and 9. The numbers can be played straight, where they must be drawn in an exact order, or boxed, where they can be drawn in any order. It's quick to play.
I just want lunch.
Players can win hundreds, and wagers start at 50 cents. The next drawing is coming up. Want directions to the nearest Ohio Lottery retailer?
Yes. One that serves food.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity. A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
You know, guys, I'll listen to you now why you picked Shadir Sanders. I'll give you my opinion on this. All he did that for was to sell tickets because now everybody's talking about it. And who's going to teach this guy? There's a reason why he was a fifth-round pick, and it's not because the Browns knew that. He just isn't any good. And the Browns didn't need to do this. If they want to make a splash, get rid of Stinkpansky. That'll make a biggest splash in the world, and we can move on and win a Super Bowl someday. Take care, guys.
You forgot to call him the two-time Coach of the Year. We usually get that with our callers from Rochester. As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Dalton Wasserman from PFF. Dalton, I don't see how a fifth-round pick is designed to sell tickets. If you want to tell me it's a high-risk or a low-risk, high-reward pick, it's probably what it is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is going to bring all the media attention in the world to it because the Browns now have maybe the most open quarterback competition I've ever seen when you realistically look at Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel was taken 2 rounds before Shadur Sanders, and Sanders himself being taken in the 5th. Look, the talent play, it makes sense. I don't believe he dropped to the 5th round because of any on-field concerns. Maybe he dropped out of the 1st round because of that, but I think this has much more to do with whatever happened behind the scenes in this pre-draft process. And, you know, as far as the Browns go, there's rumors about Jimmy Haslam interfering and what the vertical alignment with the structure of the front office and everything like that. But either way, look, I think Sanders, if he does have his head screwed on straight, has a chance to win this job. You know me. I love this tape. I love him on the field at Colorado, his ability to play quarterback. He's accurate. He can read a defense. So the Browns, you know, for multiple reasons, just became the most fascinating story of the summer with everything going on around the quarterback room.
So I know you wrote an article about the 8 most polarizing draft prospects. One of them is Shadur Sanders. Another one, Harold Fannin Jr., another one of the Browns picks. So Dart, Scadaboo, Restrepo, Williams, Farmer, Walker. What about, take us through particularly Fannin and Sanders and kind of the whole aspect of those two.
Well, Sanders, you saw it over the weekend, right, with all the coverage, even, you know, on other networks, ESPN, and all the noise that got NFL, every network. We were talking about it, obviously, on the PFF draft show as well. But, you know, that comes with the territory. You're Deion Sanders' son. He's got a lot of talent. You know, on the field, you watch him and you go, okay, he's really good. He's been one of the elite quarterbacks in college football. Obviously, the personality in the pre-draft process must not have been kind to him, or he just kind of blew it, or whatever happened there happened. So Sanders is obvious. Fannin, it's more about the type of talent that he is. And he went a little earlier than I thought he would. I thought he might go in the 3rd round, but no, you have a player who tore it up at Bowling Green, nearby Cleveland also, tore it up, set an FBS record for receiving yards by a tight end. A lot of manufactured production. He's definitely on the smaller side of the tight end scale, right, when there's a lot of bigger guys who are maybe even a little bit more athletic. But the production is absolutely there. So it's figuring out what Fannin's role is in the NFL. But I think he actually got a good landing spot in an offense with Kevin Stefanski that emphasizes yards after catch when it's going right. You already have a traditional tight end there in David Njoku. I think this is one of the better landing spots for Fannin that he could have gone to.
So the other big thing, and probably the biggest thing, trade back from 2 to 5 for the Browns. What did you think of that move and what they acquired in that trade?
Down the line, more so than Sanders, this is actually eventually going to be the historic big story in this draft, right? And it was always going to be Travis Hunter. Is he going to play both ways? Which side and how much, and the talent that he is? And then the Browns deciding to trade out of it added another layer to that story, along with the Jaguars pulling the trigger and coming up. But, Jason Fitzgerald of Over the Cap, he does a great job of evaluating contracts and salary cap and trades. And, by his metrics, the Browns got more value out of this trade than any other team did in any draft trade this year. So I think you look at the surplus value, obviously being the first round pick next year, the 2 extra picks that they got, out of this year were Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson, who form a totally new backfield in Cleveland. Plus they took Mason Graham 5th overall. So I think there's a long-term vision of this in 2 ways. One, how does Travis Hunter pan out in Jacksonville? And are the Browns going to regret passing on him? And 2, how do they maneuver now with 2 first-round picks next year? It's still possibly a quarterback need. Do you take 2 players? Do you keep building the roster? So it's going to be a long time before we can really judge this trade. But the Browns, pick for pick, got pretty good value on it, depending on if they felt like Hunter could pan out for them.
So here's what I said earlier in this show, and I had thought this through. I kind of talked myself into Hunter being fine. My concern with Hunter, do you really want to bet on a guy being able to do something that's never been done before in the NFL, playing significant snaps on both sides of the football? Because if he's only a receiver, he's probably not the second pick in the draft. If he's only a cornerback, he's probably not the second pick in the draft. It was the duality that made it, and nobody's ever done that before.
Right. No one's ever done it, and you're taking a chance with a team like the Browns, who currently has no stable quarterback situation, right? And really is now, it feels like they're in the beginning stages of a rebuild. Jacksonville is a team that does not feel like they're in the beginning stages of a rebuild. Look, they were in the playoffs in 2022. They were, I believe it was 8-3 in 2023 before they completely fell apart. And for some reason, under Doug Peterson, they just lost the mojo. They lost the confidence. And I think Jacksonville has enough talent where if things were to break right, they protect Trevor Lawrence and he plays well with those 2 receivers now, you could make a playoff case for them. You could make an NFC South winning case for them if things break right this year. So I think it's a part where they're further along. James Gladstone, their general manager, wanted to do something gutsy, wanted to get brave in this draft and get a difference-making type player like Hunter. And the Browns really are in a position more where the long-term vision has to be the approach. Draft good football players, build this roster. They're not going to be relevant until Deshaun Watson's contract is off the books. Build for the future, whereas the Jags feel like they can build a little more for 2025.
Yeah, if you find somebody that kind of gets Trevor Lawrence back on track, you've kind of done what you need to do for Jacksonville. What are the Browns getting in linebacker Carson Schwessinger? That wasn't a hugely popular pick with a lot of the fan base here because linebacker at 33 isn't really sexy.
Yeah, it's not. But what you're getting is a guy with really high football character who, yes, only started for 1 year at UCLA, but he was a walk-on who worked his way up the old-fashioned way through special teams and part-time roles. And you're getting a speedy player, a versatile player, and a guy who plays with his hair on fire constantly. I think that's probably the part that attracted Jim Schwartz to him. So, look, I think this linebacker room, this tells me 2 things. One, they really like Schwessinger and what he brings, the energy he brings. And 2, we have to wonder about Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and his injury and what the long-term impact of that may be, because you've got similar weak side players who are really good in coverage. Schwessinger's got to work on the instincts a little more, but he's got the speed for it. He's also an excellent pass rusher if you put him off the edge. So that's my mind immediately went when they made that pick to Owusu-Koramoah and what the injury, what that prognosis is looking like, and if he's really got a long-term future now.
Yeah, that's exactly where my mind went with it at 33 as well. Are you surprised Browns didn't draft a wide receiver? You look at their roster, and it's Jerry Jeudy and a lot of guys that haven't performed significantly at the NFL level.
Yeah, wide receiver was one position of need, and obviously Travis Hunter could have helped that. I'm also surprised they didn't take an offensive lineman, right? And I know they have pretty much their starting 5 set right now, but I believe 4 of those 5 guys are on expiring contracts this year, and it's one of the older offensive lines in the NFL. So both of those positions, receiver and offensive line, I was surprised to see them not dip their toe into either. Obviously, the double dip at quarterback, the double dip at running back, which I do like both of those players. Judkins and Sampson were 2 of my top 7 running backs on my board. But, to see offensive offensive line, when that was a concern, especially pass protection for whoever the quarterback is. And then you mentioned it, a lack of outside weapons aside from Jerry Jeudy. It's going to be concerning come the season when they're so thin at both of those spots.
Dalton Wasserman, PFF, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Dalton.
Appreciate you as always, Dave. Thank you.
Dalton Wasserman, PFF data analyst. He is also the co-host of the PFF College Football Show. Very knowledgeable with the draft as well. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers trying to close out the heat tonight. Sam Amico, straight ahead. Stay with us.
Hey, Olo, are there any lunch specials near me?
You want to learn about Ohio Lottery's Pick 3?
No.
Okay, Pick 3 is a daily draw game.
Cancel.
Where players pick 3 individual numbers between 0 and 9. The numbers can be played straight, where they must be drawn in an exact order, or boxed, where they can be drawn in any order. It's quick to play.
I just want lunch.
Players can win hundreds, and wagers start at 50 cents. The next drawing is coming up. Want directions to the nearest Ohio Lottery retailer?
Yes. One that serves food.
We turn our attention to the Cavaliers on Sports4CLE, an impressive Game 3 win in Miami, and now the Cavs have a chance to complete the sweep of the Heat tonight in Miami.
You have a commanding 3-0 lead in this series. Kenny mentioned how one of the things that he's learned is being fresh is important. So when you can close out a series early, you got to.
Got to be greedy. Understanding that we're going to get their best shot. Like I said, they're a group that's always going to continue to fight, so you got to put up another effort like tonight, and continue to be, who we've been on the defensive end, and offense will carry over.
It would feel good when we win it. We still have a job to do, that quote, but it would be good to get some rest for the next series and just pave the way for what we're trying to do.
So welcome in Sam Amico from hoopswire.com, Full Court Cleveland. So Sam, how important do you think it is, first closeout game that this group will have? How important is it for them to get the win today and tonight and kind of just move on?
Yeah, I mean, it's not vitally important, but it would be really nice. You don't want to come out, which is always a human nature danger. Well, we're up 3-0, lose tonight, no big deal. You get Game 5 back in Cleveland. So, they're going to be fighting some of that. I think Kenny Atkinson has talked about this quite a bit, where he said this group's pretty mature and tends to finish the job when they need to do it, as their entire body of work this season will attest. But look, the key is to come out, get this game over with pretty quickly, leave your mark on it, and get out of this series. And like Donovan Mitchell said, and Jared Allen said, get some rest before you head into round 2.
In Game 3, no Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, 4 of 14 from the field, 13 points, and they still, they're pushed a little, and then they just put it away pretty quickly.
Yeah, that just speaks to their depth, and how Jared Allen really came to life in that series. Was really just, or in that game, was really just assaulting the rim. And they were finding him on these pick and rolls, and not even, just him sliding to the basket. He was 7 of 7 in the first half, and it felt like he had like 20 dunks in there. So, that's something that they're going to do is, as Eric Spoelstra makes his adjustments with the Heat, the Cavs will make in-game adjustments. And the bottom line is they're just too deep and too talented for Miami. That, look, Miami entered as a number 10 seed after winning a couple play-in games. So the Cavs should have more depth and more talent, and they definitely do. They have a number of ways they can kill you. You look, DeAndre Hunter went scoreless in Game 1 of this series. Last game, had 20-plus points, really came to life. Ty Jerome had 28 in the first game, 6 in the second. Last game came to life with 11 assists, 13 points. They just can beat you in a number of ways, and a team like Miami is just learning that the hard way.
What do you think about the job that you've seen so far from Kenny Atkinson? Has he outcoached Eric Spoelstra? Is it just kind of what you've alluded to, or is it a little bit of both, do you think?
Yeah, whenever Eric Spoelstra's come up with like a game plan and an adjustment, Kenny Atkinson has countered that every time. So I don't know that I would say he's outcoached Eric Spoelstra. He just has more at his disposal, Kenny Atkinson, to work with, so that when the Heat make an adjustment ahead of the game or they go to a zone during the game, the Cavs just have so many more weapons that, okay, you want us to, you want to pack the paint and keep us outside, well, then fine, we'll beat you that way. If you want to try to shut down our guards and double team and sprint and blitz Donovan Mitchell or Ty Jerome or Darius Garland when he plays, then we're just going to go inside with Mobley and Allen and beat you that way, and DeAndre Hunter. So it's just, again, too many weapons for the Cavs, and it makes Kenny Atkinson's job that much easier.
What's impressed you about the Cavs the most in these first 3 games?
Yeah, that they've been able to beat Miami in any way, right? We saw the first game, it was the 3 guards. It was Garland, Mitchell, and Ty Jerome. And, Allen and Mobley did not have a big game those games. Well, fast forward 3 games later, and Allen and Mobley are killing them on the inside because Miami's managed to take away the guards. As you said, Donovan Mitchell, 4-14 shooting, 13 points, get the Cavs win by 37. So that's what's really impressed me. And, unsung in all of this has been the play of Max Strus, who's had 3 outstanding games. Just the way he's tirelessly defended on Tyler Hero, held him, Strus wasn't the only guy, but held Tyler Hero to 13 points last game as well. So just the all around well-roundedness of everything they're doing. Dean Wade, Sam Merrill, Isaac Okoro, those guys are doing the intangibles. That's been very underrated. So really we know that the stars are going to do their thing. What's impressed me the most is how the role players have been able to play all 3 games.
Well, and is that a factor because Kenny Atkinson has played them all season? It's not like you're asking them to do things that they haven't done all year. You're just asking them to do what they've done all year.
Right. Yeah, they're not playing, we see so oftentimes, and not just the Cavs, but a lot of teams in playoff history will go away from what worked in the regular season. Well, the Cavs have just stayed true to form and maybe ramped it up another notch from a 64-18 year in which they won 15 games in a row, then 12 games in a row, then 16 games in a row. They really haven't changed a thing. Everybody asked Kenny Atkinson before the playoffs, are you going to really try to play 10 guys in the playoffs? Most people shrink their playoff rotation. And his answer was, until we get stopped by using 10 guys, then yeah, we're going to keep doing it. So he's stuck true to his word. And in the game 1, used all 10 guys in the first half or in the first quarter. And he's used them every first half so far, and then playing more even at garbage time in the last game. So I wouldn't think that they would get away from that until it stops working.
So I know you also wrote an article. You brought up Max Strus. He was stunned by the Cavs' lack of maturity when he got here. Take us through that and kind of how that came about.
Yeah, he came from Miami, which was coming off of an appearance in the NBA Finals, and we all heard about Heat culture and how they approach games, and they still do that, regardless of whether or not they have as much talent as they did then. But when he got to Cleveland, came to a very young Cavs team that was, happy to get into the play-in tournament or happy to get into the first round of the playoffs or whatever. And he just came from a different environment. Now the Cavs have that environment. They've grown up. I'm sure that Strus's addition a couple years ago has helped. Same with Donovan Mitchell. Keeping Tristan Thompson around has helped, and just their natural growth from people maturing. Darius Garland, Jared Allen. These guys are still having fun. Great personalities. Never had so much fun covering an NBA team. Been doing this since 2007. This is my favorite year ever covering a group of guys. But along with that fun, they have a very business-like approach to games. And I think just natural maturity is a big reason behind that, as well as, their leader, Donovan Mitchell, is one of the best leaders I've ever seen in the NBA. He's always, accountable for himself, never blames his teammates, always encouraging. So I think all of those things added up have really helped since Max Strus arrived.
All right, before I let you go, another article about Evan Mobley winning the Defensive Player of the Year and Draymond Green kind of congratulating him. Take us through that and how that went.
Yeah, it was after the Warriors game the other night. The reporters asked Draymond Green, who, the three finalists were Evan Mobley for Defensive Player of the Year. Evan Mobley, of course, won it. Dyson Daniels from the Atlanta Hawks, who had a fantastic year all around, but was really good defensively. And Draymond Green, who's been, a defensive pest for years, just came out and said, when they asked him about it, he said, look, Evan Mobley's an incredible young talent who deserved that award, and offered him a lot of high praise and said the future's super bright. And, for Cleveland fans, for 2 minutes, you had to stop and like Draymond Green, which is rare. But the nice thing is, the Cavs have really, Kenny Atkinson spent time with the Warriors before coming to the Cavs, and he's turned Evan Mobley into their Draymond Green. Evan Mobley already pretty elite defender, but now getting rebounds off the defensive glass and dribbling the length of the floor and playing some point forward, just like Draymond Green does. The difference is Mobley's 7 foot and is still growing into that role. So nice praise from Draymond Green, and great to see Evan Mobley rewarded for what would really been an outstanding career season.
Sam Amico, hoopswire.com, Full Court Cleveland. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. I'm sure we will be chatting with you soon. Thanks, Sam.
All right, thanks a lot for having me. Talk to you soon.
Sam Amico, make sure you check him out, co-host of Full Court Cleveland. He also writes for hoopswire.com about the Cavs and the entire NBA. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.